Go back on to. Okay, hi, good morning, everybody. Thank you for joining me and Gil. Gil is joining from his company is called Employee Experience Design, and my company is called HR Superhero. Both of us work with small, medium-sized companies. We are dedicating our time going forward every day, 11 a.m., Monday to Friday, to support as many businesses as we can. Um, you know, Anywhere, not just Canada or US, but anywhere in the world, to help you guys navigate through this difficult time with managing your employees and managing the crisis. So today we're actually dedicating time to talking about hiring and recruiting. And we're gonna stick to about 30 minutes. I also wanted to let you guys know that StreamYard, when it's streaming onto LinkedIn, there's always seems to be a delay. So if you have questions for Gil and I, please write them in the comment box so that we can get to them before 11:30 today. Time, 11 Eastern time, for 30 minutes every day. We're going to cover different topics. And today we're going to talk about recruiting and hiring. So I'm going to let Gil again lead today about hiring and recruiting.
Okay, thanks again, Gurpreet. Happy to talk and welcome everybody today. Today we're talking about those lucky organizations that are still in the position to be hiring and recruiting through this crisis. And the reality is that when doing that, we can't be relying on our old strategies and our old methodologies. One of the things that I've noticed a lot from the people who I've been speaking to in the sales field is the talk about the change in empathy, and the old practices and the old methods just aren't going to work. And I've actually seen a number of examples where people have received sales reach out that just didn't make sense right now. People asking for in-person meetings or trying to book things that just really don't make sense right now, which really turns off the consumer. And as such, recruiters and hiring managers need to also consider that. And they need to consider their language. They need to consider the person's experience of what they're happening right now. So for me, it's probably going to be a common refrain, but at this point for recruiters and hiring managers, it's time to lean into the humanity. It's time to lean into the fact that while you may have, been targeting certain aspects or had a limited amount of time when talking to people to find out about them and find out their fit to the organization, now is also the time to find out just how are they doing? How is their experience? Because the reality is that it's always a stressful time to be looking for a job. But now that stress level has increased infinitely for a variety of reasons. For the fact that a month ago, it was completely an employee's market here in North America. There were jobs that were more available and people were in a position where they could find multiple offers. Whereas now a lot of people have lost offers that they had previously. And a lot of organizations are going into firing mode, not hiring mode. So those candidates who are on the market, there are now more of them, and they have more stress that that they're dealing with. But on the flip side, so do the recruiters and hiring managers. Be understanding of your own humanity. Be mindful of your own stress in how you're managing that, managing your people. Anything you want to add on that, Gurpreet?
Yeah, definitely. So I think if your company has a need for hiring, and you're right, traditional hiring is not going to work. So my message to companies on when it comes to hiring right now, because there will be some companies that are experiencing growth during these difficult times because they're either manufacturing, healthcare, or they're providing a service products that are essential right now. Yesterday on the news, I was hearing, not on the news, Queen's Park did a news conference, and there was a lot of companies. I was actually blown away on how many companies are stepping up to the plate. Auto industry, automakers, manufacturing companies are stepping up, and they're going to start making ventilators. Another manufacturing company, they were talking about Canada Goose, and other soaring companies. are going to step up and start making hospital gowns. So there's a lot of people in Ontario, especially a lot of manufacturers in Ontario, just stepping up to the plate, which is so great to see how our community is coming together. So that means it's going to be, if they don't have enough workforce to do this, they're going to end up hiring temp workers. So I think there will be some industries that will be still hiring, and then might be some industries that might be doing layoffs, temporary layoffs and temporary cuts. So it's kind of hard to predict who's going to be doing what, but we are seeing two different shifts happening: hiring growth in some industries, and then some industries are moving to layoff. So any company that's looking to hire, you're right, traditional way is not going to work. The best thing we can do right now to actually do the right hiring process would be to do videos. And when I say videos, I think everybody knows we're going to be, a lot of companies are already doing videos, but keep in mind that let's make it simple. Be very accommodating. Don't force. Like when I recruit, I love doing videos. But if someone has WhatsApp, I don't mind jumping on WhatsApp and do a video call. If someone has an iPhone, I don't mind doing FaceTime. I have an iPad and I can do FaceTime. Typically, I like using Zoom, but if someone, for various reasons, don't want to download applications, I try to accommodate. So I think the video will really play a key role. Zoom's great to use, but again, keep in mind that some people may not want to download additional things onto their laptop to doing this. So I think the video process is going to be the best bet, and keeping the candidates in the loop when it comes to video. And if you're going to do video, send them proper instructions on here's what you're going to need to do. Step one, if you're going to use Zoom or any application, Slack's good to as well, that let them know here's what we're going to use, here's how you can download it. So give them proper instructions so they're equipped, because this is also new to many people. A lot of people haven't done video interviews either. So this is going to be a new thing for everybody. So I think just to make the process more smoother on both parties, we can take an extra step and provide instructions on even the video, how to download an app, try it out, how to try out the instructions, and also what they can expect in the interview during the video. I think would be the best approach. What do you think, Gil?
I think you hit on two really important points there. The first of which would be flexibility, in that understanding, like you said, some people aren't used to doing video calls. Or if I was doing calling or recruiting, under normal circumstances, it would be expected that you don't get interrupted by children or anything like that. I'm not personally one to judge that in a normal circumstance, but a lot of people would. Be understanding these aren't normal circumstances. People have their children at home. People have others that they're taking care of at home. So the flexibility and understanding. Also, like you said, some people aren't used to video calls. It's a nerve-wracking enough experience having an interview, and then to do it through a technology that you're not comfortable with. It requires a certain extra level of empathy and extra level of understanding from the interviewer to put the person at ease. And that's why, again, I talked before about leaning into that humanity. Start the conversation, not necessarily about the specific role or about the specific organization, but just, what the person is going through. We all have a unique experience right now, and understanding that is key. And then the other aspect that you talked about, which I loved, was around communication, because communication at the best of times is key to candidate experience. We've all, heard about and seen the horror stories of people getting ghosted after having multiple in-person interviews or not having expectations met. Now is not the time for that. There's already enough stress. Communicate, and then over communicate, because helping these people understand what are your actual expectations, what's it going to look like, because everybody knows what an in-person interview is going to look like and feel like. but not everybody's going to know, okay, this is what I have to do on Zoom, or this is where I should be looking, or I shouldn't have a busy background behind me or anything like that. These aren't necessarily intuitive and known by all people. So the communication and the flexibility that you mentioned, I think, are really important for hiring managers and recruiters as they move forward in understanding what other people are going through, and the stress that people without work right now is significant. There's uncertainty for everybody. So for those that are without work right now, the stress is just significantly increased.
I like how you mentioned, there might be kids, there might be noise, because it's true. Schools are shut down, and people with kids have their kids at home, and you can't control that noise. What are you going to tell you? You can't lock your kids up in a room and say, you know what I mean? So yes, I agree. I think it's a time to really, let go the traditional way of recruiting and really be human and understand there might be noise in the background. There, or someone may choose to sit in the car and do the interview to avoid the noise because their house is full right now because
Yep.
everybody's sitting at home, right?
Mm-hmm.
So let's overlook and just accommodate as much as possible. And I think for companies that do have HR or recruiters, or this message is actually for everybody that's hiring right now, recruiters, HR, business owners, that you got to really got to be human right now. We can't just expect everyone to be in good state of mind. Nerve-wracking videos are going to be nerve-wracking, and I think the best thing to do for the employer that's hiring right now would be to make the individual feel comfortable first before
Absolutely.
even starting the interview. Ask them how they're doing, how are they coping with this whole situation, COVID-19. I think that would be a great starting point to get them to ease up a little bit, and maybe even create a quick guide on, we understand videos might be, not comfortable for everybody. This is a difficult time for all of us. Here's how we want to make sure the interview goes smooth. And you can kind of guide them a little bit, quick pointers. That actually will help you even build your employer brand in one aspect as well, showing that your human side. But I would say the biggest thing would be understand that, yes, this will not be, this is not a traditional time where we have the luxury to have a quiet space at home where we can do interviews. We may not, given some people may not, right? So forget all those little side things that may be happening, and even not having a good background. We can't be picky. This is not the time to be picking and nitpicking about a candidate. And I think that's the other point in hiring, I think will be crucial right now for some companies. And I think a lot of companies don't have the luxury right now to be picky. I think you need to know what you need, the set skills you need, and focus on that.
Absolutely. Yeah, no, you reminded me of not being picky in terms of the background. It reminded me of a picture I saw within the last couple of days. It was two pictures. This gentleman, I think he's a salesperson, put on LinkedIn a comparison. He's like, why I use a Zoom background, and it shows him in front of a picture, and it looks like he's in an office. And then with the picture off, and it's his two kids in the background with wolf masks and like lightsabers and everything. And it's just, that's the chaos that is behind him, which kind of brings up my next point, which is around that we're talking about how candidates might have a discomfort on video or a lack of experience on video. The same thing is true with interviewers. The same is true for recruiters and hiring managers, that they might not necessarily know how they're coming across in a video interview. They've had experience, they have knowledge maybe on the phone or in person, whereas a video interview, we all just come across differently. We all come across slightly differently. We don't realize it. So one recommendation I would have is, if you are planning on doing Zoom or Skype or FaceTime interviews, do a practice run. Practice with somebody within your organization or a friend or family member to see how you come across. Because the whole purpose is that for, like Gurpreet said, we want to set these candidates at ease. And if you're coming across either with a tone or an atmosphere that isn't setting the person at ease, you want to be cognizant of that, because you might be losing very good candidates because of the impact you're having on them because of your lack of experience. So that's something for hiring managers and recruiters to maybe even practice together to do these these Zoom interviews, so that they understand, okay, this is how I come across, and this is how I can be most effective in easing the other person's situation.
Yes, that's all great, valid point, because it's new to hiring managers too, but some may not have the luxury to practice the videos. But great that we need to figure things out. I would say, you know what? I think it's the most crucial point right now would be to be human. This is not the time to be perfect. No one's going to be perfect. We're all juggling through so many changes that are being thrown at us. I think let's just not forget that we are all in this together. All of us are going through all these changes at once. But I think hiring and recruiting is a lot of companies that were hiring or had open positions, but due to the situation, put a pause. Please communicate that. I've had a lot of people asking me, well, what do I do now? I haven't heard anything from the company that I went to an interview maybe last week or 2 weeks ago prior to this, because it's been a week since last weekend was when we were told to, social distancing. So I think it's really important for companies just maybe do a public announcement. You don't have to individually send out an email, but you can, if you have an applicant tracking system, just do a blast to all the candidates saying, right now we've put a pause on hiring due to COVID-19. So communication, I think it's also important, even in recruitment, even on the positions you put on hold. And then I want to talk about, if you are hiring, how important is the onboarding right now? If you are going to hire somebody and you are making an offer, and if now you got to have two things you got to consider: is this an office job? And if it is, yesterday here in Ontario, they said yesterday, Premier Doug Ford even said people need to stay home. Shouldn't be going to work. So how do we now accommodate this? If we're going to hire somebody new, employers also need to think outside of the box here too. So if the new hire you're going to hire maybe is not comfortable coming to work, you have to be open to accommodating them to work from home. And if it's not a position where you can work from home, maybe because it's manufacturing and X, Y, and Z, that you're ready to highlight this position is coming to the facility, but here's the measures and steps we're taking to protect all our employees. I think communication, even on the onboarding, is a crucial point at this moment as well.
Absolutely. And that's something that probably a lot of these organizations, because they're so stunned by the fact that they have to adjust their hiring and recruiting, aren't even thinking ahead like you are. The fact that people will now need an onboarding process that is likely entirely remote, where you have to integrate people into these new systems, into this new culture, but without having an opportunity to do it face-to-face, without having an opportunity to do it in person, without having them immersed within your atmosphere. And so for me, it always goes back to this word of intention, that it has to be done intentionally. And it starts with thinking the way you were thinking, even about the fact that onboarding needs to change. And so with that realization comes the intent of saying, okay, so onboarding needs to change. What are the key aspects of onboarding? What are the things that this person truly needs at this point to be effective in building up within our organization? And what are some of the things we can wait? Because I think you made a great point earlier that this is not the time to be perfect. This is not the time to try to be perfect. This is the time to be human. There's something else that you actually mentioned earlier that I do want to hit on, which is you mentioned employer branding. Because I think that during this time, employer brands will be made or broken.
Yes, we're seeing Sadly, was seeing a lot of that. I seen it yesterday. I had to go to RBC branch, and oh, I'm a customer, so I don't like how they handled the whole situation yesterday with me and everybody else. So yeah, like employer brand, just branding alone as a
Absolutely.
company, yeah, it is actually right now. There's a lot of make or break happening. And I think it is very crucial time to really be human. Let's not forget that we are human being, and we need to be able forget your policies. I keep hearing, well, our policy are forget your company policies. This is not the time to sit and say our company policy is X. This is the time to be innovative. This is the time to really listen to what your employees are saying, maybe your customers are saying, and then navigate through that. Don't pull out your policy and say, well, this is our policy, because it's not going to work right now. And even with the onboarding, your traditional way of onboarding is not going to work. Even if a lot of small medium companies don't even have onboarding, but I think right now is a crucial time to actually, if you're going to be hiring, you need to have onboarding, because if you're onboarding an office employee, well, and if you already have implemented work from home rule, how you gonna onboard them is so important right now in the hiring. It's gonna play a very crucial role to ensure the person you're hiring is successful.
Absolutely, absolutely. And
So
so
we have 10 minutes. Sorry, Gil, to cut you off. We have 10 minutes. So if anybody has questions for me and Gil, please write them in the comment. I'm going to start going through them, but Gil has something to add. So once Gil's done adding his viewpoint, I'm just going to quickly start reading the questions that are coming in.
I think you actually made a good point that there are many organizations, unfortunately, that don't really have an organized onboarding process. But then I think this is an opportunity for those organizations to delve into what's really important to them in the onboarding, ask the questions for the recent hires, ask for the questions of the highly successful employees to understand what is it that we really need to do to welcome these new employees on.
Yeah, very, very crucial right now. So there's a question. I really like this question. Because it has happened, but it might happen a lot now when the companies are hiring. Organizations get frustrated when candidate rejects the offer after accepting them, but how can organization do the same thing? So I'm assuming, how can the organization do the same thing? I think this individual is asking organizations can send an offer and then reject the offer. Interesting question. Yes, companies, I think right now, I get it. It is frustrating even as an HR professional when we're hiring to, you put all this effort and the candidate accepts and then they reject. But that's why my rule of thumb of hiring is you identify at least top 3 candidates. So if one says yes, but then they're rejected, you can move on to the second one and the third one. But I think right now the crucial point, like companies need to do this right now too, because they might be candidates that may say, no, I don't feel comfortable working right now.
Yeah, and I think the reasons for why candidates might be rejecting things now than they would have a month ago would have changed. Because whereas a month, 2 months ago, we were in such a candidates market, there were people who were getting multiple offers, signing an offer, and then finding another opportunity. Whereas I think that's less likely the case now versus somebody who, like Gurpreet said, may be in a situation where they're hired, but now they're not comfortable coming into to that office. And so it's a consideration. I'm not sure about on the employer's side. My expertise is certainly not on employment law, so I'm not sure exactly how that would go about, especially as if you're rejecting somebody for the sake of somebody else, or if you're just retracting the offer because of the downturn. I'm not certain.
Companies, I can answer that. It's very highly unlikely a company will make an offer and then reject a candidate.
Yeah.
Very highly unlikely that will happen. You cannot, it's just not a best practice to give an offer and then say, you know, we're not we're not going to hire you because we're going to move on to the next candidate. You can't do that. Once you made an offer, you gotta stick to the offer made, and if the candidate rejects it, for a different story. Yes, the only time I can see a company rejecting a candidate for unethical reasons, if the candidate's done something unethical, or the criminal background, if a company does a criminal record check, that didn't come up, but then you'll know it was state in your job offer letter that this is a conditional offer due to like verifying the criminal background check or reference check or so on. Like, you got to read your employment job offer letter. I've never seen, I don't practice this. If the offer's made, you leave it on the table. There has to be a very, very good reason if a company is withdrawing their offer. And this time, right now, I can see it. It could potentially happen.
Yeah.
The company may thought they need somebody, but you know, a lot of companies are going through hard times. Some companies are going through a hard time and may just need to put the position on hold.
Yeah.
So I think everybody right now just needs to be understanding. It's not the time to get frustrated on either party. Shouldn't get frustrated because we're already frustrated as it is. Keep it cool. And the best advice I can give to companies right now is don't get, for a second, never get, I think the time your employees or candidates might be a little bit, you know, some candidates may have anxiety. I think it's not the time to, I think if you think a candidate's having anxiety or they're uneasy, just stop what you're doing and put all your attention to listening to what they have to say. I think a lot of times people forget to just listen and just make the person feel comfortable, because sometimes they just need to be heard. So I think a lot of things we can do right now, but as in the hiring process, it's already nerve-wracking as it is, and I think this COVID-19 might create more anxiety for people, and they might be more nervous during the interview. So just keep in mind that try to do as best as you can to make the candidate that you're interviewing feel comfortable.
One of the things that I used to do when I would have candidates come into the office or over the phone that I recognized were nervous, what I would often do is I would just ask them an easy question. That I know that it was an open-ended, easy question, because when people start getting into an answer that they're comfortable with, it eases their nerves. It may not be something I'd be able to assess their fit to a position on, but it's something that I will know they will have a better experience for the rest of the interview, and I'll get better answers and better quality answers from them if they're at ease as opposed to being nervous the whole time.
Great. Yeah, I do that too. I like to do icebreaker, or I just start with, so how's your day going? And I just start with something very simple. How's it going? How's your day going? And I'm not doing any hiring right now. A lot of my clients have put their hiring on pause, except for IT. There's a lot of jobs right now coming up. But I always start with, you know, how are you doing? And now if I was hiring, recruiting, I think the first question I would ask would be, so how are you handling this whole situation? And get the, you know, the conversation rolling a little bit. I'm not saying spend 10, 20 minutes talking about COVID-19, but just ask them, how are they doing and how are they handling? And I think the candidate will a little bit ease up. Then you can slowly lead into the interview.
Awesome. Yeah. Sounds good.
Okay, great. Thank you, Gil. So guys, we're
up.
We only have about a minute to go. If you guys have, I just want to end our conversation with, if you guys have questions for us, this segment is for small, medium-sized companies or any companies that going through a difficult time and need the extra support when it comes to HR and employees. Me and Gil have collaborated to come together to help as many companies as we can, especially small, medium-sized businesses who probably don't have the resources needed right now to help them navigate through this difficult time. We are here to help as many businesses across Canada, US, or anywhere globally as much as we can. So if you have questions for us, please reach out to us. If there's topics you want us to cover during these live sessions, please reach out to us. Monday, we're going to talk about how companies can successfully implement and sustain remote work during this difficult time. So tune in 11 a.m. Eastern Time as me and Gil will navigate through remote work. Thank you, guys. Thank you.
Thank you.
See you guys Monday. Bye.
Have a great weekend.